everyone, welcome to Zach Attack Reviews. Thank you for joining me for my review, my Throwback Thursday review of Pixar's Soul, starring Tina Fey and Jamie Foxx. Now you're asking, how do I choose what I review on Throwback Thursdays? That's easy. You guys choose the movies that I review on Throwback Thursdays. I drop a poll on my community tab, and everyone on the channel gets to vote and choose which movie they wanted me to do. And this was Black movies during Black History Month, and I wanted to do animated films, and Soul won by a large margin. So I'm really excited to break down the good, the bad about this movie and give my overall feelings and see if it holds up. Let's start with the premise. Joe is a middle school band teacher whose life hasn't quite gone the way he expected. His true passion is jazz, and he's good. But when he travels to another realm to help someone find their passion, he soon discovers what it means to have soul. Soul is one of the best animated movies I've ever seen. From the way they brought to life these characters, looks like New York street artists, and their caricatures of people brought to life, to way they depict New York City and how it feels so accurate to the feel and the culture of New York City, how fast-paced and scary it can be, but also how soulful and warm and diverse it is. The characters of Joe and 22 are excellent in this movie. Joe, a middle-aged band teacher who wants to be a jazz musician, be in a jazz band so bad, finally gets the opportunity of a lifetime to do so. But on his way there, he falls into a manhole, which ends his life early. This leads to one of the best opening credit scenes that I've seen in any movie, live action or animated, as Joe travels on to the afterlife and is on the road to go to the great beyond. But of course, he doesn't want to. He feels like his life was taken too sudden, right where he felt like it was just getting on track. So he runs and runs back the other way, trying to find a way not to get sucked into the great beyond, and falls into the great before, which is where these, I guess you could call them angels, but they're called Jerry, prepare souls, young souls, new souls to go to Earth and become people. I thought the concepts that they brought here were wonderful. Not only was this place fabulously animated, but it talked about certain things like existentialism, nihilism, the purpose of life, people being obsessed and going into depression, but done in a way where it's not in your face and kids can understand at the same time. They had things like a hall where they showed the different best and moments of your life, which was really used very well. Now you're asking, is this a kids movie? I thought this was a Pixar movie. This sounds really heavy and something for adults. And yes, this movie is a lot more mature than other Pixar films, but that's where Jamie Foxx's Joe and Tina Fey's 22 come in. 22 is this young soul who does not want to go to Earth. She despises every single thing that she's ever heard about it and thinks that her life in the great before is perfect. She gets to live. She doesn't age. She doesn't have to feel anything. She could just be there and just be by herself. And Joe, not wanting to be sent to the great after, is pretending to be a trainer, someone who trains young souls to find that spark so that they want to live life and to go there so they have that purpose. So he thinks he can do this perfectly. He knows what his purpose is to be a jazz musician, and he has to find that thing for 22. Their dynamic, everything that was going on between them was very, very entertaining, very funny. There's a lot of really good gags and jokes between them, and also physical humor, like them grabbing pizza and eating it and realize they can't eat, and it just kind of pops right out the other side of their body, was really, really funny. There's a part where they show, like, they could show the different parts and souls of the people when they're in the zone, meaning like when a musician is playing and he's in the zone, he can't even really think about what he's doing, he's just doing it. Or like any type of artist, even a basketball player, and which leads to one of the funniest jokes in the movie, especially if you're a New Yorker. 22 says that she's been messing with a team for all the years that she's been there, and it was the New York Knicks. And she's the cause for all the failure that we have suffered with the Knicks. And I thought that was absolutely hilarious, as someone has grown up with watching the Knicks just fall short every single year. And all those things were really, really funny. And it was just like a lot of good humorous things, a lot of little details that they had in there that really made me chuckle. And I feel like there was stuff that was there for adults to understand that maybe kids won't, but there was stuff that was there for kids to laugh at as well. And I thought it was a good balance. As the story progresses, they mistakenly fall to Earth, and Joe falls into a cat, and then 22 falls in Joe's body. And at first, I got scared because there's a history of animated films where they finally do star a black person, that the black person doesn't end up being in most of the film and they end up being an animal or an inanimate object. And I thought that's what they were doing here with Joe, that he was going to be this funny looking cat for the whole rest of the movie. But what they did with this, with him being able to observe himself outside of his body and understanding certain things, and then it wasn't the whole movie, it was just in the second act for the most part. I think it was executed well and really avoided that trope that we've seen like in Princess and the Frog, Spies in Disguise, and many other films that we've seen in the past, and animated shows and movies. Purpose here for them to not, for Joe to be in the cat's body and for 22 to be in his body, is for Joe to see that he's been so obsessed with his goal of being a jazz musician, he has lost some of the spark, or dampen the spark that he had for life, for him to enjoy the little things that he used to enjoy. Everything is just jazz, and he doesn't know how to have human interaction like he used to. And on the flip side of that, 22, who did not want to become a human, did not want to live life, just wanted to be in the great before, started appreciating the little things that us as human beings take for granted, because she thought like, oh, in the great before I have those things, but you don't get to feel it. You know, like before she's like, I don't like music, I don't like this, I don't like that. But as a human, it just affects you differently. And I thought that was a really touching. And Joe and 22 finds a way that they can switch back their bodies, and 22 can go back to the great before, like she said she originally wanted to, and she starts changing her mind a little bit on what she wants to do, and they get into like an argument, and 22 runs away in Joe's body. But while all this is going on, they're not being realized that they're being watched by one of the people from the great beyond, who is the ones that counts the souls, and he needs to get them back because that's his job. And they both get separated out of both those bodies and get sent back to the great before, where it's time for 22 to go and start her own life, and Joe to go to the great beyond and die and pass on, because that's what was supposed to happen. And up to this point, I was like, okay, this movie's okay. I'm having some fun. There's some funny jokes here. I like the characters. The story's okay. But there's something that happens at least the halfway of the movie, or maybe a little bit past the halfway, where Joe starts realizing the things that 22 was appreciating and that he was forgetting. And it started bringing tears to my eyes. It started making me well up. And I really understood what the messaging for this movie was about and how it was executing it. And I really started loving everything that was going on. Joe finally getting a chance to be inside of his body and starting to be able to live his life and get that opportunity to do what he wants, while also and 22, who has this spark for life, had an opportunity to finally become a human, now having the second thoughts because of this argument that she had with Joe, going into this deep depression. Now that she's lived life, she can become one of those souls that get lost and crumble by depression and sadness and this obsession with whatever is wrong with them. And Joe makes this sacrifice to go help her and guide her back to her purpose, and that's just to live life. And that's what the definition and the meaning of this film is that there's no purpose in life other than to live it. And I thought that was a beautiful message, and it affects things of people who believe in nihilism and absurdism and different things like that. It touches on all those different kind of people, and just in the end shows that just live your life, live it to the best that you can until it ends. And I thought that was a beautiful message that this film displayed. And what I really loved about this film, and for it to be a black film, is that that's not a story that we get a lot in the black community, and it depicted people we don't get to see in the forefront in a big movie like this. People who love jazz, playing in nightclubs, the seamstress and the barbers and things like that. We usually get them in like regular comedy movies, or their side characters and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed the way they depicted it, a certain part of the black community, and I thought that they executed it really well. Now let me get to my verdict. So I'm skipping over the bad section. I didn't think anything was bad about this movie. I enjoyed it from top to bottom, from the stunning animation, the inspiring story, the beautiful score, the relatable characters, the great voice work from an all-star cast. When I went to go back and read who was in this cast, I was like, whoa, there's so many good people here. in the cast, but Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey carry the movie so well. They have such great chemistry. They're so funny together. And I think that this was a masterclass in animation and storytelling, and a story that made me really rethink my life in a way where I'm looking at my past choices and I'm looking at about how they will affect my future and how I can just start over. And it just really affected me in a very profound and powerful way. And I think that this is something that adults can watch and really get something out of. And maybe kids may not understand, but when they watch it and like, oh, I remember that movie was funny, and get older and go back to rewatch it, they'll get so much more out of it. And I think that's the power of Pixar and the films that they make, is to make you laugh and joke and love stuff as a kid, and then when you watch it as an adult, you realize the messages that they were trying to give you. And Soul is the prime example of that. From, like I said, the New York Knicks joke and a bunch of jokes in there, to the barbershop scene that was so wonderful and spoke to experiences that you have when you interact with people in life. I think that this film depicts the beautifulness of life and how you should try to really live it to the fullest. Great. And I really love this movie. This was a great way to end the Black History Month Throwback Thursdays I was doing, and I'm glad that you guys voted for this film. And with that said, I'm going to give it an A. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What would you rate Soul? Let me know in the comments below. What was your favorite part of the movie? Who was your favorite character? And how did the movie make you feel overall? Like the video if you like my review. Subscribe to the channel so you can join the community, vote on Throwback Thursdays, and check out my other content on my channel. I review current movies. I do trailer reactions. I do live discussions where I do a live stream and do like spoiler reviews and do discussions about different things in the movie, television, media space. And I do ranking lists as well. So you can hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you can be notified of all that content, and you can watch more of my content right now.